Hi, I'm David Piercy and welcome to video number 3 on my Tribute to Jimi Hendrix YouTube channel. Now all of this is affiliated with my website, which I would encourage you to check out at JimiHendrixOnline.com. Now I'm a Jimi Hendrix historian. I've been at this for 46 years. You can see my name in some notable books on Jimi Hendrix like Electric Gypsy and Cherokee Mist and Becoming Jimi Hendrix, and I was a contributor to the VH1 documentary on Jimi in the Legends series. So people ask me, I've been asked many times, what was it about Jimi Hendrix that inspired all of this? And there's no single answer to that. He was one of the most interesting characters and had one of the most fascinating lives of anyone in contemporary music. And he was one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century. And he was so damn cool. I mean, what can you say? Period, end of sentence. You know, that kind of clinches it for me. So going back to the website, whether you're a boomer like me that grew up in that era and loved it and still loves it, or a casual fan or just someone learning about Jimi, at the website you can find something there that'll keep you busy for a while. There are galleries of photographs, vintage posters. I love posters, as you can tell, and magazine and book covers from around the world and over the decades, and even a gallery of 45 picture sleeves from around the world. But what we're going to talk about today is something I touched upon in the very first video, and that is pictures of Jimi and other rock stars of the era. And occasionally I get to meet some of these people, and they always have warm things to say about Jimi and maybe have a story or two, and are usually happy to sign the photograph, and I usually give them a copy as well. And examples would be Al Cooper, Dave Mason, Elvin Bishop, Eric Burden, and Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. Now, some photographs that I have not been able to get signatures on to this point is I have photographs of Jimi and all of the Rolling Stones individually. Mick, Keith, Ronnie Wood, Charlie Watts, but those have been proven difficult to get because you don't run into the Rolling Stones on the street every day. Unless you know somebody, you know, you're out of luck on that, but I do hold out hope on that. Another real good one is I've got a great shot of Jimi and Eric Clapton, probably from 1967, because Eric is sporting the perm and brightly colored clothes, reflecting the influence that Jimi had on even him. And and by the way, there's not a single photograph has ever surfaced of Jimi and any of the Beatles, individually or collectively. I mean, a shot of Jimi and all 4 Beatles would just be off the charts. But there's not even a shot of him and any of them individually. And they all went to see him more than once. So if any exist, I hope they surface while I'm still above ground. But today I want to talk about a photograph that I was very lucky to get signed. And the backstory behind that goes to a little venue that existed in Nashville, which doesn't exist as such anymore, but it was a little supper club called the Cafe Milano. Now this was a nice little dinner supper club, dinner theater, where Chet Atkins played every Monday night the last couple of years of his life. It was a very hard seat to get because being Nashville and being Chet Atkins, you never knew who was going to wind up there on stage with him, and it was always packed. Much like the Iridium Club in New York where Les Paul played the last few years of his life. But I pick up the paper one morning, this goes back to November of 1998, and I pick up the paper and it says, "Tonight only, one night, John Entwistle, bass player for The Who, and his John Entwistle Band will do one night at Cafe Milano at 8 p.m. But then it went on to say that there will be a free sound check at 4 o'clock, and after the sound check, he will be happy to sign any and everything you've got. So I was very excited about that. I picked up my son after school and said, we're headed to Nashville. And we went and found ourselves right at the front of the line and went into the club, took our seat at a table right in the front, literally spitting distance away from John Entwistle. And luckily, I brought a pair of foam earplugs, because to say that it was loud would be an understatement. It was like a physical force pressing against you, but it was amazing to see him up close and doing the incomprehensible things that he did on bass guitar. And one little interesting addendum to the story there is the guitar player, who was also the singer, said, after they'd done a couple songs, said, does anybody out there know the words to The Real Me? Because they were doing a combination of Who songs and some of John's originals. And some guy said, yeah, I know the words. And this guy ambled up to the stage, and to say he was disheveled, yeah, he was. He looked like he'd slept in his clothes and his hair was not combed, as I remember it, because I remember thinking, this is going to be embarrassing, you know, because he didn't look like a singer, and whatever a singer looks like, you know, but he just didn't look like he was going to be able to deliver these goods. But he grabbed the microphone, the band launched into the song, and the guy absolutely nailed it. I mean, all the nuances of that vocal, all the notes, he hit them all. And the band were playing and looking at each other like, wow, you know, so it was really great. And afterwards, we took our place in line in front of a table where John Entwistle was seated. And I was the last person in line because I wanted to take a minute. And while I was waiting in line, I saw the guy that was working the soundboard came up with a cassette, and that's how long ago it was a cassette, and handed the guy a cassette and said, we recorded this at the board, I thought you might like to have it for a souvenir. So we gave the guy a recording of his jamming with the band, which I thought was great, and I'm sure that's something he will proudly play for his grandchildren someday. So anyway, we get up to the table there, and the picture that I had, the photograph, was a shot of Jimi and the Who backstage at the Savile Theatre in London in 1967, where Jimi Hendrix opened for the Who. And if you can imagine that, Jimi Hendrix and the Who in their prime on the same ticket for probably $5 American. So anyway, this picture at the time, a lot of people have seen it now, wasn't so common back then. And I laid this picture out in front of him, and the band were all standing behind him, and their mouths dropped open and they were like, wow. I remember hearing one of them say, do you remember the day? And Entwistle didn't really say anything, he just smiled from ear to ear. He signed the photograph for me, he shook my hand, I thanked him, and then we were on our way. But that was quite a night, and it's kind of sad now that he's not around anymore, because he was one of the greats in rock and roll as well. But that is one of the diamonds in my autograph collection, and I still haven't gotten Pete and Roger to sign it yet, but you know, fingers crossed on that one. So that is it, video number 3. I will put the picture up here so you can see it, and I thank you all for watching, and more videos to follow.